everyone, Caitlin here. Super excited to be here. Thank you, Jordan, for putting this on, getting us all together, keeping us positive. Obviously, this is a really weird time of life for probably all of us. And as small business owners and entrepreneurs, this is taking a little extra pivoting action. I always think of friends when I say that. But truly, I think it's scary in a lot of ways, but it's also a great opportunity. And I'm trying to use this time productively to work on my own business and to get better about sharing the load with each other and joining in community and being more intentional about that. So again, thanks to Jordan for having us here. Like I mentioned in the comments, I'm actually using a third-party app to stream this. So I'm really hoping it cooperates. I really wanted to be able to share my screen with you guys because we're talking about web design today, and it's hard to show you examples without actually showing you. So this is supposed to let me toggle back and forth between sharing my screen and then going back to just my face. So hopefully it'll work. Hi, Kira. I'm so excited to have you here. I have a second screen, so if I look away, that's because I'm looking at you guys in your comments. Hi, Tina. You have Etsy today. I totally get it. Oh, you can't stay today. That makes sense. I know this is actually kind of a busy time for a lot of us. There's a lot to work on as we pivot our businesses. So there will be a replay, and I think I may even try to upload a PDF of the little presentation I have. So if you're watching the replay, don't worry. I will try to provide resources to you. And I guess we can go ahead and dive in because I don't want to hold anybody up who's live. So I'm going to switch my screens around a little bit, and then let's see here. Okay, so I'm hoping that you guys can see my screen now. This app, between the app and Facebook Live, is actually, it's got like a 10 or 15 second delay. So you guys are seeing everything just a couple seconds after I do, but hopefully it'll make sense. So today we're going to talk about the 8 secrets to a magnetic homepage. For those of you who may know me, I am really into authenticity and sincerity in your branding and marketing efforts. I run my own design studio. We specialize in branding and websites for small businesses. And so we work with a lot of people who are what you would call solopreneurs or personality brands in a way, people who leverage their personality in their branding. And I actually think that's awesome. I think it makes business so much easier when you can just show up and be yourself. And I'm sure a lot of us are on the same page and have similar beliefs. And I'm a really big believer that we really are fearfully and wonderfully made. There is only one you. So if you're out there trying to be somebody else or comparing yourself to others, trying to emulate whoever it may be a business mentor, your former boss, somebody that you think's doing really well, you kind of rob everybody of what makes you you, and the superpowers that you have and the perspective you have. And I have found since going full-time in my business about 3 years ago that the more I just show up as myself and allow myself to feel a little vulnerable and just pursue authenticity, the better I feel. It's takes so much less energy to just show up as yourself, and you start to connect with clients and customers that love you, that want you, you know? So you'll see that I'm a really big believer in that and how that comes through in your homepage. And I have a hashtag I use a lot called magnetic sincerity. And it's all around that premise of when you're truly being yourself, when you're being sincere, people love it. And they'll really connect with that. And I'll show you some examples of that. So without further ado, we will just dive in. As I thought about this, I think there's 8 principles that really drive an effective homepage design. So I'm going to just give you a quick overview, and then we'll continue on and go more into detail on each one. So the 8 principles that I follow every time I build a homepage is intention, clarity, simplicity, transformation, empathy, trust, consistency, and authenticity. So that may sound like a lot, but we're going to break it down. And the nice thing about this is you can just tackle one thing at a time. You know, maybe look at your homepage and just look at it for its intentionality or just for its consistency, and then come back another day and tackle the next piece. And a lot of this also applies to all the other home pages on your website. So if you tackle your homepage and you think it looks awesome, then you can move on to your about page. All these principles will apply. So the first one is intention. Every element on your homepage should serve a purpose. I think we can all be guilty of building a website and just focusing on making it pretty. So that's very human. It makes sense. It's a visual design, but it is so much more effective when you have an intention behind everything you do. So one of the first questions I ask my clients when we're starting to work on a web page design is to establish the 3 primary actions you want your customer or client to take when they visit your website. So that might be like, I want them to book a consultation call. I want them to fill out my project intake form. I want them to follow me on social media. I want them to join my email list. Try to be really mindful of which activities they should be taking on your website that will drive conversions or connection with them. And then based on that, I start to design, this is called a wireframe. So if you haven't seen one before, this is what I do before we actually start building the homepage. And it's just a bunch of boxes, placeholder text. There's no fun colors. I only use the green to show that that's like an action step, like a button. But the whole point is to just focus on the structure. So this is a great way to kind of start being more mindful of your user experience and the journey you take them on when they land on your homepage. So I'll kind of start peppering in copy if I have a specific idea in mind, or if I want to kind of guide the client as they're building out their copy. But this is really just focused on the layout and the purpose of each section. So you'll see there on the left side, I kind of have that little tab highlighted, and those little tabs, they're hard to read on the screen, but each one just helps me to remember what the purpose of each section is. And if I can't come up with a purpose, then it probably doesn't belong. So the 3 purposes I usually focus on is to clarify the message. So that might be a section that talks about what you offer or who you are or how your process works. It's something that clarifies what it's like to work with you. You might be establishing trust in that section. So it could be a testimonial from a client, or badges, certifications, anything that kind of helps this prospective client or customer begin to trust you and see that you're legitimate. Or it's calling them to take action. So that's when we really start to focus on those 3 actions that we decide together. So if your main thing for this client, he's a counselor, he wanted them to land on a page that talked them through the steps, what they can expect, and then it had an embedded Calendly page so that they could schedule their first appointment. So you can see that those big bright buttons, the first things kind of your eyes go to are those get started buttons, and that'll take them to that page where they will hopefully take action and schedule an appointment. And then kind of as a follow-up on this, a little bit more bird's eye view is to think about, as you're building your homepage, that you're making the client the hero and not you. That can sound kind of counterintuitive when you're like, well, this webpage is about me. I don't understand how to not make it about me, and how I can drive business that way. But it's a it's a principle that's discussed in Story Brand. If you haven't read that book, oh my goodness, go buy it. It's amazing. I literally have it on my desk with me. So I live by this book. It has so many awesome principles to follow for your website. And the big overarching theme of it is that your client is the hero, or your prospective customer, and you're the guide. So you're just here to guide them on a transformation or a journey, and we'll kind of get into that more later. But just start to think about that as you think about the intention behind your homepage. You want to speak directly to that client or customer and show them that you see them and that you're the guide who can take them from point A to point B. So that's the first principle. Second principle is clarity. You have to make your offer effortless to understand. So it should be short, it should be snappy, and it should be right there on the page the second the page loads. So when someone lands on your page, it should be above the fold. And if you don't know what that means, that just means that it's above the fold is the part of your website that's visible before someone scrolls. When they just load the page, bam, that's what they see. It's really important for your offer or your service to be there and be one of the first things they see. So you'll see here, this is an example of the finished homepage that was built off of the wireframe I just showed you. It's the same client, but this is how we actually build out the page. So you can see here, the colors are applied. We're using fun fonts. It looks a lot more exciting, but we were able to build it with a lot of intention by starting with that wireframe. So he actually wrote all his copy, which is amazing. He did a great job. And you can see here at the very top in that Heroes section that I highlighted, it says, get support to be truly happy. Purpose-driven coaching and counseling in Fort Lauderdale. So the great thing about that is you can see he's focusing on his client, his prospective client right away, speaking directly to them. And he's speaking to the transformation they're hoping to get. They want to be happy, and they don't want to just be happy. They want to be truly happy. And how do we get there? We get there with his purpose-driven coaching and counseling. So you can, the second you land on the page, you know right away what he's all about, what he's offering you, and then you can scroll down the page to get more information. And then another thing you want to make very clear is your calls to action. So things like buttons, you just want to make it abundantly clear what you want them to do. You don't want to give them a billion options, because then people just get overwhelmed, they get confused, and when people get confused, they don't take action. So you can see here that the two buttons you see right away are those get started buttons. And it makes it very obvious. He wants you to click on that. He wants you to click on the button to get started, and that's what will lead you to booking that consultation. And then you can start incorporating your secondary CTAs, or calls to action, that they can take if they're not ready to make that first step. So your first call to action is usually your biggest one. You want them to book that appointment. It's that pushing them down the funnel, or you don't want to push them down the funnel, but you know what I mean. It's that next step that gets them closer to the sale, working with you, etc. But if they're not ready, if they still need more time, a great secondary call to action would be something like joining you on social media or joining your email list, things that continue the communication and continue to build that relationship and allow them to come back and book when they're ready. So you can see that he's got his social media icons up in that top corner right next to the getting started button, so that hopefully if someone's not ready, they can at least follow him on social media and get a feel for him first. So that's clarity. And next one is simplicity. So simplicity is very similar to clarity, but it focuses more on just not overcomplicating things. There's that common quote, perfection is achieved when there's nothing left to take away. And that's actually a very strong design principle. It's a principle I follow with all my branding clients. And it applies to websites too. You don't want to overwhelm with huge walls of text, things like industry jargon. Those might be words that make a lot of sense to us. And because we do it every day, but if our clients start getting peppered with industry jargon, they get overwhelmed, they get confused. Things like if Sweet Kira, the photographer, was constantly talking to us about, oh gosh, I'm not even gonna be able to remember the acronym, ISO, I think, all the tech specs behind her camera, and was trying to sell us on, well, you're gonna love my photos because I use this camera and I use these cool features on it and I know all the tech behind it. That really doesn't sell people because they don't know what you're talking about, and it gets overwhelming. And so we want to focus more on simply how does your offer make their life better and how do they buy it. That's all they really want to know. They want to know how you're going to make their life better. So you can see in this example, this is another client of mine. He did, again, he worked on his copy with his wife. His wife is actually a copywriter who's familiar with StoryBrand, so that was a dream for me. They did an awesome job. And you can see here that his top landing page, the hero shot that you see when you load the page, just says, finances don't need to be stressful. Master your business and personal finances with Fiscal Fluency coaching. So very similar to the other counselor that we were just looking at, he makes it very clear what he's here to help you with. He doesn't want your finances to be stressful. I think a lot of us, especially right now, are a little stressed about finances. Maybe some of us don't have a great savings account and we're starting to realize, oh my gosh, I really should have worked on that. I'm overwhelmed, I'm scared. And he just kind of jumps right into that at the beginning. He just says it doesn't need to be stressful and you can master this with my financial coaching help. So I love that. I love that all the elements on his page are really simple. He actually decided to do away with the navigation links and just uses the little hamburger menu. I would say if your target clientele are fairly young and tech savvy, that's okay. You wouldn't want to do that if your clientele were not super familiar with technology, because that might confuse them. But in this case, it really works because boy, does it make that free consultation button obvious. It's very simple. It's very clean. And I think something that we need to remember is that people scan websites. They really, as much as we pour our hearts and our souls into our copy, into our sales pages, I know I've been guilty of sitting there for 4 hours tweaking my bio. As much love as we put into it, just by nature, people tend to skim what they're reading, especially nowadays. They're going to land on your page and they're probably just going to kind of scroll through it and they're going to catch the headlines. So really important to use text hierarchy on your homepage. You want to use headings, highlight important sections, use bulleted lists, avoid those huge blocks of text because people will just skip right over that. And the benefit is that that's actually great for SEO too, because the little Google bots, when they visit your homepage, they look for the same thing. So when they see something in a headline, they think, all right, that's important. That's important information. And they make that more relevant. They deem that more relevant than a huge block of text. So it's kind of a double benefit there. Both humans and bots prefer that you use good text hierarchy, that you keep things really simple, that you reinforce what you're all about in a very human way. So just keep things simple. Try not to overthink it. Maybe even run your homepage by somebody who really knows nothing about what you do. Like a family member, this might be one opportunity when it's appropriate to get their feedback and just ask them, like, is there anything on this homepage that goes over your head? Does this confuse you? Are there words I'm using that you don't understand? Is it too much? And just try to par it back until there's nothing left to take away, and then it's perfect. So, all right. Next one is transformation. We kind of alluded to this earlier. It's that same kind of StoryBrand concept. You are their guide. Where are you taking them? That's what everybody wants to know when they land on your homepage. They may not be thinking that consciously, but when they land, they want to know if you're going to be able to take them from point A to point B. And obviously, usually point A is sort of negative. In this case, this is fiscal fluency again. And he's taking them from fear to confidence. So a lot of people get really worried about their finances. They get stressed. It's one of the main things that couples fight about in marriages. It can be a real sticking point, and people can feel really just icky about it. So he just owns that. He calls that out. I think he even says it in this headline up here. Under Stop Losing Sleep and Finally Take Control of Your Money. He says, Fiscal Fluency is a personal and business coaching program that teaches vital financial skills so that you can make decisions from a place of confidence rather than fear. So you can see he's being very intentional about that. He's making it clear that I want to take you from this place of fear and overwhelm and panic to feeling confident and in control and master of your finances. So it's really important, again, to focus on the outcome that you provide or the benefits and not just the features of what you provide. So in my case, as a designer, I need to focus less on, well, you're going to get this many revisions and you're going to get this many logo files and you're going to get, all these kind of line items. That's important, and that information should definitely be included somewhere. But the main focus should be, what do my clients get out of a brand new brand or, a new website? Maybe it's, they're going to get more sales. They're going to, connect more quickly with their ideal clients. They're going to make sales in their sleep because their website's working for them like a salesperson. You want to focus on those benefits that they're getting rather than just the features of what they're getting, and constantly point back to that transformation. So another way to look at that is to kind of subtly highlight, what do they risk if they remain where they are, and what do they gain if they take the next step? So in this financial coaching situation, if they didn't take the next step, if they remain where they are, what do they risk? Maybe their finances will continue to spiral if they're not in control. Maybe they could, lose their house if they don't figure out how to build up a savings account for times when, finances are tight and the inevitable happens and the unexpected happens, or you're in the middle of a pandemic. It's too real right now. So that's what you would risk if you didn't take action. If you do take action, maybe you start to feel more confident. You start to feel in control of your finances. You start to see that savings account building up, and you don't have to panic if you're out of work for a couple weeks. So you really want to focus on that journey that you're taking them on and find ways to communicate that on your page. And then finally, you just want to make sure the steps of that journey are abundantly clear. So, this could be things like on this example, he's got his 3 main ways of working with him listed. And then actually, if you go to further down the page, you can see how it works at the bottom. And he actually tells you, this is what we do first, what we do second, and what we do third. So he actually kind of alludes to his process. And the more you can do that, the more confident people will feel taking action. If they don't know what to expect, as humans, we just fear the unknown. We don't like not knowing where we're going. It's like asking somebody take a step off this cliff. I'll catch you, I promise. Like, unless there's some really amazing trust built up there, they're probably not going to want to take the step. But if you can walk them through, here's what we're going to do next. Here's this next step. It starts to ease that tension and that fear, and it allows those conversions to happen. As I have here, confusion kills conversions. And it's true. If people are confused when they land on your page, they're not going to take action. So the clearer you can make it, the simpler you can make it, the more you can allude to that transformation they can expect, the more confident they'll feel taking that next step. All right, the next one is empathy. So here's our lovely counselor again. He is a rock star at this, no surprise. But this kind of ties into trust, which is coming soon here. Having something in common makes trust easier. So if you've ever landed on a homepage and, let's say you land on this guy's homepage and he starts talking about his story and you relate to it, think about how much quicker you trust that person. You're like, wow, we relate, he gets me. You'll find that a lot of times we are often serving a past version of ourselves. A lot of us build up our businesses, and even if our clients, my clients aren't necessarily budding designers, but I would say that a lot of my clients have been budding entrepreneurs or budding small businesses, or even if they're thriving, they're just in this place of not feeling fully confident in what they offer, feeling that imposter syndrome, feeling frustrated that they're not connecting with the clients and customers that they feel they could really serve. And I speak to that because I've been there, and this is very similar. I actually, after talking to this guy, John, on the phone, he kind of just outlined that, I asked him, how'd you get into counseling? Because I actually almost went into counseling, so I always love hearing people's stories about that. And the gist of it was that he was employed and he was doing counseling at the time. He'd always wanted to help people, but he just felt like he was not rising to the occasion. He was starting to feel really downtrodden. He took a big risk in changing jobs and taking on a new challenge, and it totally failed. And he was devastated, and he was trying to figure out how to pick himself back up again. And then he really worked on it. He worked on his mindset. He realized, as he wrote here, like, failure can be something to celebrate. And he rose from the ashes, so to speak. And I thought that was so powerful, because I think a lot of people, when they're seeking out counseling or therapy, anything like that, a lot of people are in that point. They're at the bottom of the pit. They don't know where to go. They feel hopeless. They feel like a failure. A lot of times there's a lot of negative self-talk, negative feelings, and being able to land on this page and see that, like, hey, this guy's been there, like, he gets it, he's not going to be condescending, he's there with me, is a really powerful trust factor. So any way that you can relate and show kind of who you are, your human side, how you relate to their problems, the fact that you just see them, it builds what they call that know-like trust factor. They say that people do business with people they know, people they like, and people they trust. And one way to build that is to touch on that feeling of empathy, that feeling of camaraderie. We're in this together. Like, it's the guide that reaches out to you in your pivotal hour and says, hey, take my hand. I've been there. We can get through this. I'm going to show you the way. So again, that really connects into that transformation. And it builds on your trust and authority, because we always trust someone that we have something in common with a little bit easier. So as you can see, a lot of these principles all tie together. And as you can see, the next one here is trust. Trust allows you to soothe apprehension and the fear of buyer's remorse. So all of us, I think a lot of us are small business owners here. A lot of us have had to make big, scary financial decisions, whether it be hiring someone or investing in a software or, some other decision that if we chose incorrectly, we would feel an immense buyer's remorse. So because of that, we have a lot of apprehension about those purchases. So anything you can do to build trust is super, super important. It ties back into, building that empathy, showing people the journey or the transformation you want to take them on. And then one of the best ways to back all that up is social proof. So this is things like testimonials are amazing. And you'll get bonus points if it includes someone's photo, a video of them doing a testimonial. I know Pete and Jordan are rock stars at getting video reviews of their journals, and I think it's amazing. It's brilliant. There is nothing more authentic than someone being on screen talking about it. It just really drives home the point that it's authentic, it's real, it's legitimate. Or another way to do that is to include social handles. So this snapshot is actually, it's not on my homepage. I wouldn't put this many testimonials like on my homepage, but I wanted to show an example. This is a plugin that I have that automatically ports over any reviews I get from Facebook, Yelp, or Google. So it not only does it keep my website a little bit more updated with the newest reviews, but it really drives home the authenticity of those reviews. It's really easy to, just post up text on a page and say that it's from a client. But more and more, especially these days, people are pretty savvy and they get a little apprehensive if there's no way to prove that testimonial is legit. So having a plugin like this that links directly to that review on social media is really powerful because it shows it's legitimate. Another way to do that again was video. And if you can't get that kind of thing, having a photo of the client really helps, or customer, whatever's relevant to you. And then another way to do that is to have badges, awards, your experience, if you've been featured in anything, anything you can do to show that other people have trusted you and they've been happy with it is really huge. Because if somebody's coming to you as a stranger, they are desperate to find that backup of, I can trust this person, I'm going to have a good experience, other people have had a good experience. So you want to just keep driving that home, pepper things, reviews or badges throughout your homepage, your sales pages. In my case, I do have one page that has all of my testimonials just in case somebody really wants to see all of them together. But then I also pepper them on different pages so that even if somebody doesn't find this page, they're getting the reviews and backup and social proof as they're reading through the copy. And then another way to do this is just to let them get to know you. It kind of ties back to that authenticity and empathy. People want to do business with people they know. And if they don't know you personally in your personal life, the quickest way to do that is to show up and to show them who you are, have an authentic bio, have a video on your homepage if you can. I am amazed at what a big difference that makes. I put a video on my homepage, 2 years ago, I think, and I just threw it together in one afternoon, and I get so many comments from prospective clients that call me, they book a consultation, and then on the phone call they say, I loved that you had that video there on your homepage because I felt like I instantly got to know you. I got to know your personality. I got to know kind of what you're all about. And I instantly kind of felt like I knew you. And it just alleviated so much apprehension. It showed me that I think we would really get along well. And now I'm excited. So I've actually been blown away by the impact of that. So if there's any way for you to put up a video, it does not need to be perfect. It does not need to be studio quality. This could be an excellent time if your business is a little slow or if you've been forced to close. Maybe work on some of those things. Maybe put together a video that just, it could talk about your story, or it could talk about why you love offering this service, or what they can expect, what the client experience is like. Anything you can do to speak to the quality of your offering and kind of who you are as a person can really help with building that trust factor. Next one is consistency. People feel more comfortable when they know what to expect. So a lot of what we've been talking about has been bigger, overarching, almost more strategy related than actually building out your homepage. And this is one thing that definitely applies to both aspects, but especially the visual side. You don't want to get too creative or complex with your layout and your design elements. It can be really tempting to have a really creative layout for your navigation, or to have a really scrapbooky feel to your homepage, or to make it really artistic, especially for those of us in the creative industry. However, as human beings, we feel much more comfortable when we understand what's happening on a page. So you want to just use really common layout principles. Things like having your logo at the top of your page, usually either left aligned or centered. That's just where people expect it. Your navigation should be very clear. It should always be at the top. I mean, you can include it elsewhere, but always make sure that your main navigation links are at the top of your page. And don't get super creative with the names of your links. It can be really fun to think of things like, oh, I'm not going to call it a blog. I'm going to call it notes. Or I'm not going to call it, about or about me. I'm going to call it where it all began, or, things like that. Sometimes you can get a little bit creative, but generally, if people get confused, they stop taking action. So if they're looking for your blog and they can't see it, they just won't go to your blog a lot of the time. Unfortunately, all of our attention spans are pretty short these days. And so the quicker you can get people what they're seeking, the better. And one of the best ways to do that is to use very common visual cues. Even things like icons, like your menu. When you're on a mobile phone, you'll notice that a lot of websites use what they call the Hamburger Menu. It's those little 3 lines. And there's a reason they do that. It's because everyone's come to understand that the Hamburger Menu is the main navigation on a mobile phone. So you don't want to use a different icon because then people don't understand, they get confused. Another thing you want to be careful with is buttons. As boring as it is, you just want your button to communicate what is going to happen. So I've seen a lot of buttons where it's like a question, it'll say like, are you ready? And people might click on that out of curiosity, but it actually creates a little bit of tension because you don't know where you're getting taken, unless it's made very clear somewhere else right above that button. It's just better to say exactly what clicking on that button does. So in this case, this is a client of mine that's a psychotherapist, and you'll see that her buttons just say schedule my appointment, because that's what that button does. You click on it and it's actually a pop-up that immediately lets you book your next appointment. So it just makes it easier. It makes it less less confusing. You'll see that all her navigation links are very simple. You probably know exactly what to expect when you click on one of those. If you click on services, it's going to be a list of what she offers. If you click on rates, it's going to talk to you about how much she charges and maybe insurance, things like that. So as boring as that sounds, you want to keep the structure and the wording you use just very consistent. Make all your buttons generally the same color so that people come to understand that's an action button. They recognize it right away. Use similar fonts. You can obviously use different fonts for like different heading levels. And, you can see here that we have a fun gold script font that we kind of use to accent things every once in a while. But you just want to make it consistent. All your heading ones, those main headings, they're all the same. All your page headings are the same font, same size, your body fonts are all the same. And it's subtle, but people really do start to feel more comfortable when they just kind of know what to expect. So, as it says down here, and I think I mentioned earlier, clarity trumps creativity. Because if things aren't clear, if things are confusing, people just won't take action. They get confused, they'll drop off, they'll fall out of your sales funnel. So the more clarity you can provide, the more trust will be built. They'll feel more at ease, and anything we can do to help make that decision easy is good for both of us. So the last one, Kira will recognize this page, is authenticity. As I kind of talked about at the beginning, I'm a big believer that all of us are fearfully and wonderfully made, and it's really important to show up as our real selves. I think especially if you're kind of starting out or you work for yourself, you can really get in your head about things. It's easy to fall into comparison. It's easy to just want to emulate somebody else that looks successful to you. And I did a lot of that when I first went full time. I was coming out of a corporate job and I felt like, well, I need to be corporate, like, because that's success. So I really played down my personality. I used colors on my homepage that I didn't even really like. They just felt like the colors I should use. I tried to be really ultra professional in my emails. Everybody was telling me, don't use smileys in your emails. Try to keep things short. Don't be too personable because then they might take advantage of you. There was just a lot of stories I was being told by the corporate world. And yeah, it did kind of work in the corporate world, but the longer I did that, I was just exhausted. I felt like I wasn't me. I wasn't able to show up for myself. I was connecting with clients that I really didn't enjoy too much. And I don't know that we were really a great fit, but they were a great fit for corporate Caitlin. So I just started to peel back those layers. I started to look at my branding and seek to use colors and things that really felt like me. I started peppering those smileys back into my emails, and I was amazed by how quickly I started connecting with clients I absolutely loved. Like, they would be my friends in real life. Some of them are my friends now. They're a joy to work with. They love me, which makes our relationship so much easier because we trust each other, we understand each other, we have a similar ethos, we have similar beliefs, and it just makes the whole process so much easier. And I'm showing Kira here because I did not actually build her website. I just did her new rebrand. But something I love about Kira is how much she infuses her personality into her brand. I know her personally. We basically grew up together. I lived at her and her sister's house for not literally, but I basically did for like a year and a half. I was always there. I'm best friends with her older sister. And so I know Kira, and this is so Kira. Her branding, the way she approaches things, it just emulates her. It's brightness and joy. I love in her bio, this little mini bio on her homepage, she talks about being a mountain girl. She talks about loving the Enneagram and talks about what her number is, her love for adventure, how she loves to laugh and have a good time, what she values. And what I love about that is when somebody lands on this page and they're looking for a photographer, they're going to immediately connect with that if that's what they're looking for. Kira is an absolute joy to do photography with. She does all my photos. She did my photo on like the second slide. She did my wedding photos back in December, and my husband was actually really apprehensive about photography. I'm sure a lot of guys are the same way. He just felt like it was so awkward. Like, why do we have to do this? We don't really need photos. And I was insistent because I value them, and I love Kira. I know her. And he ended up absolutely loving her. He was like, wow, she is so down to earth. She's easy. She's approachable. She laughs. She helps you to relax while you're doing photography. When you're feeling super awkward and nervous, she at least makes you believe you're not awkward, which is a big part of it. Because she does so well with communicating who she is and bringing her whole self to her business, people love her. They love connecting with her. And honestly, I know one of probably the bigger fears when you show up as your full self is that it might repel some people. And, I've had that before where, I'm somebody who puts a lot of smileys in my emails, and, I'm very warm and personable with my clients. I don't like to play the corporate-y role because that's not who I am. And there may have been a couple clients or prospective clients that were just looking for something different. And it's easy to let that get in your head and think, well, if I had just scaled back a bit, or if I had been more corporate and played that role, I could have gotten that client. But honestly, speaking from experience, they're usually not your ideal client. And your ideal client truly loves who you are and how you show up in the world, and they see that you're playing that irreplaceable role. And they're looking for that. I've had so many clients connect with me and say, "Oh my gosh, like I have been looking for a designer like you, not just your talent, but like how I feel when I work with you. I've been looking for this, and I'm so glad I finally found it." And I'm not trying to talk myself up. It's more just, it has really reinforced to me how important it is to just be who you are, be who you've been designed to be. I think Kira is on the same wavelength with the Enneagram. Her and I are both nerds about it, and I love how she's leveraged her Enneagram number to speak into her branding. We had lots of talks when we were doing her logo about her love for the mountains and adventure and loving to laugh, and these are all things that are very Enneagram 7, but she's got that wing 6. So if you're familiar with it, that's actually a lot more grounded. And so I love that the roots kind of speak to that side of her that is very down to earth, despite being tons of fun and a joy. And I think that's a great way. If you don't know where to start on showing up authentically, that can feel pretty actually uncomfortable sometimes. One thing that's really helped me is leveraging any personality profiles that I connect with. So like the Enneagram for me, I'm a 9, wing 1, if you're into that. And I literally read through my test results for that and picked up on keywords that really resonated with me and made note of those and actually peppered them into my copy. I've looked at my Myers-Briggs. I know I'm an ISFJ, so I speak to that in a lot of my copy and the way I show up in the world. And another great thing to leverage is any client or customer testimonials you have, especially if they have to do with who you are, your personality, what it's like to work with you. Leverage that and pepper that into your copy. I've had a lot of clients tell me, "Wow, she's so organized. She's so friendly. She's approachable. She's calming." I had one client say, "Working with you makes me feel like I'm in a boat on calm waters, and I can hear the water lapping up against the boat. But it's very soothing. It's very calming. And I just know you're going to take me in the right direction, and you're going to be very down to earth about it." And so I've really taken a lot of that to heart, because sometimes people can see things in us that we don't see in ourselves. So that's a great place to start. All right, I think, believe it or not, I think that's it. So thank you guys for having me. This has been a super fun topic. I'm hoping it's helpful. I know a lot of this was kind of bird's eye view and less tangible action items, but I really do think these are the most important steps to take and things to keep in mind. And they'll inform a lot of your decisions with the actual elements you put on your page. So if you have any questions, if you're curious, if you're confused about something, if you want to know how to apply one of these principles to your web page, if you want me to take a look at it and ask, have a question for me about something in specific, please feel free to reach out to me. I do have some of my contact details on this screen. My website is emberand.co. And that's the same for my Instagram and my Facebook handles. So I would love to connect with you guys. I would love to follow you on your journey. I'd love to cheer you on. That's like one of my favorite parts of being a designer, is cheering my clients on and watching them grow and watching them pivot as needed. We're all in this together. So I hope everybody's doing well. I will scan through the comments to make sure that nobody has any questions. But otherwise, we'll just wrap up and follow up afterwards. So I will switch to, let's see here. All right, make sure, quick scan of comments. Oh, here we go. Thank you, Frank, for your kind words. I'm glad you found it valuable. And I will make that slide deck available. Kira, I love you. I mean every word of what I say. I love that Kira did a topic on brand and how to show up in your brand, because trust me, I work with lots of businesses. She is up there on my list of people who just nail it. So she's amazing. Go follow her. Yeah, so I'm glad everybody found this helpful. I will upload this slide deck to my website, and I should be able to post it in the comments so that anybody who's following up can go ahead and download that. And yeah, I hope everybody had a great time. I had a great time. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Jordan, for putting this together. You are a doll, and Jordan and Pete are two of my most favorite clients in the world and already becoming dear friends of mine. So I hope everybody has a great day, and we will talk soon.